die rechterknopjes gedrukt op haar. Is this battery still on? Is the battery still working? Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3.
Testing wall, there we go. Lift up your voice with strength. Thank God for amplification. Oh, there. We've been amply fed and blessed. Wonderful, wonderful, brother. Thank you. God so enjoys the thought of you. Can't get you out of his mind. You know, our indifference, even our hostility, never changed God's mind about us. Because Jesus is God's mind made up. When Paul reflects on this in Romans chapter 4, he says, God called things which were not as though they were, as though they are. Because God's not sitting there holding his thumb and helping me, this is going to work out. He announces the end from the beginning. And you see, we've carved our ideas out of our imaginations for centuries. We built all kinds of idols. If you go back to where were we? Isaiah 40. Problem is the tears and the small print Bible. You could kind of know the verse by heart, otherwise you might reach the wrong doctrine. I so enjoy where Philip joins the chariot. Remember that? Here's a young deacon. I mean, things got busy, you know, in the early church days. It got busy, so the main guys, I mean, they had to preach and pray, and they could still serve tables, so they appointed a few beautiful young people and said to me, right, you're going to help with the tables. Now, serving tables in the context of the unveiled Christ, the bread from heaven, can be dangerous. Oh my. And soon young Philip found himself way beyond his job description. He was preaching in his Bospad in the city of Samaria. And saw amazing things happen. And one would think, you know, Philip, now just settle down, you can start a church here, you've got a lovely following. But he hears God, and God says, I've got a lonely road in mind for you. Come on, God, yeah, we can really do something in the city, and God sends himself. And I'm so glad that it's a continent called Africa, south of where Philip was at that moment, the city of Samaria. He follows a road called Gaza, and Gaza means treasure. And he's about to meet the chief treasurer of Central Africa, man in charge of Africa's wealth. Ethiopia was much more than what it is today, it was Central Africa. And he was returning from a Passover feast. Why would he bother to come all the way from Central Africa to Israel? Because many generations ago there was a queen of the south. Long before Twitter and tweaks and Facebook times, the rumors had their own voice. And she learned that people gossip about a very wealthy, wise man called Solomon, the king of a little insignificant place on the planet called Israel. And rumors have a way, you know, they kind of grow on you. And if you allow the rumor to settle in, things can go out of proportion. And so she must have thought at times, well, I mean, this cannot be. How can a king in a desert land compare notes with me? I'm the Queen of the South. I'm the Queen of Africa. I mean, she owns the gold, the diamonds, the ivory, the fantastic woods, whatever it was that Africa had to offer. So the rumor eventually engaged her enough that she started loading her camels with her trophies. Let's go and compare notes then, you know. They're not going to go empty-handed. We're going to convince this king, you know. I'm speaking to have an arm wrestle, and then I'll prove the rumors wrong. And she gets to the land of the rumor, and her jaw drops. She says, "Oh, just as I thought, you know, rumors always exaggerate." She says, "The half has not been told." You see, there's always a half that cannot be told. When Jesus reflects on this in Luke 11, he reminds them of this woman and he says, she traveled this distance to witness Solomon's wealth and wisdom. And he says, a greater than Solomon is here. So just to give context to this young deacon's mission, going on a lonely road, and here he meets the chief treasurer of that kingdom. What were they doing in Israel? She brought the prophetic word, the promise that was conceived in this little nation. She brought it to her people, and they became involved with this prophetic thought. And here this man is sitting on his chariot, and he's reading from the book of Isaiah. And you see, in Jewish scriptures, this is why the book of the Septuagint, the Greek translation, is so amazing, because it just brings another angle to texts. Our Old Testaments are all translated out of the Masoretic text, which is 1,000 years after the Septuagint. And the Jews kind of read into these prophecies more than just the Messiah. They read their own suffering and their own, when they speak about the suffering servants, it's plural, but in the Septuagint it's speaking about my boy, singular. For unto us a child is born. So anyway, in the context of witnessing the prophetic word which they carried in their scrolls, and he's now witnessed, he's traveled, he's been dedicated to go on behalf of the nation and witness the significance of the Jewish Passover feast. And so he reads the scriptures, and he gets to the place in Isaiah 52 where it's speaking about as a lamb led to the slaughter, he opened not his mouth. And he was intrigued by the thought, who would this man be? So he asks God, he says, God, what is this prophet talking about? This is hundreds of years before he's known. Who's he pointing to? Was it just about himself? Maybe as a prophet that he would go through tremendous suffering and be misunderstood and ridiculed and led to the slaughter like a lamb? Or is it perhaps somebody else? And at that point, Philip arrives. He outran the chariots. You don't need to worry about how you're going to get there. You've got wings and wheels and things inside. There's nothing that mobilizes your life more than seeing something that includes others. And here's this young man on his way on a lonely road, and he's not at all aware of who he's about to meet. And he meets this man, and he hears him as he approaches the chariot. He hears him read from the prophet Isaiah, and he breaks the ice with this question. He doesn't introduce himself and explain why he's there, how he got there. He says, "Sir, do you understand what you're reading?" There's a lot of reading going on, and has been for many, many centuries, with little understanding. It's the most dangerous book on the planet. It's confused and divided more people than any other book, but it carries the treasure. And it's the unfolding of the treasure that it's all about. I wrote you at the bottom, the first 3 words in the book of Revelation. Apocalypsis, Jesu Christus. Jesus Christ unveiled. Unveiled. So the man answers Philip, he says, "How can I unless someone guides me?" And then Luke records this so beautifully. He says, and beginning with that scripture, he told him the good news of Jesus. And so I wrote many years ago, I wrote in my march, always had a wide margin Bible, I wrote there, when you read the scriptures, get to the point. Don't get distracted. Get to the point. If it's not about Jesus, page on. And if it's not the unveiling of Him as in a mirror, where something happens inside of me, turn the page. Get to the point. That's the point. Let's go home. Serving tables. Found himself on a mission the next day. Waar's die ouetjie wat die kos bedien? Hy is weg, hy gaan preek daar. Isaiah 40. And the voice cries, what should I cry? Verse 6. What's the other voice? Good. And he answered, all flesh is grass, and all its loveliness is like the flower of the field. We get there. I'm on my way to Corinthians chapter 3. Because Paul speaks about 2 glories there. The glory of the flesh, the fading glory. The glory of my own achievements. I mean, we've witnessed the fading glory. I was there in Gerard's photographic room yesterday with some wonderful, wonderful moments captured of great heroes of our sports. Maar die man het oud geword. You can net for so long, you can only run that fast or jump that high for so long, and then you become part of history, you know, and then the young ones take over and records are broken and they are new champions. There's a glory that fades. And that glory, thank God, does not define you. You see, we've just read you in Isaiah 40 earlier on today that all flesh shall see it together. God's not unveiling His glory as in a mirror to embarrass you, but to ignite you. To ignite you. Because you're His trophy. Ephesians 4 verse 8 says He led us as trophies in His triumphant procession on high. We were in Jamaica, Lydia and I, preaching in a Baptist church the year that they had the Olympics in London. And Usain Bolt, came back, and the other athletes came back with the gold. And I congratulated Jamaica, from the pulpit with the excellence of the champions. And I said, you know what, but the gold they brought home is not going to impact your economy. And maybe you're a friend of a relative, but maybe you could do a selfie with the champion if you're lucky, you get a selfie. and even perhaps put his trophy around your neck for a second, but it's his trophy. And you can go to the whole, you'll bite that trophy and kind of feel champion for a moment, but it's the champion's trophy. But this glorious gospel reveals that you are God's trophy. You share the podium with Him. You're seated together in heavenly places. There is no higher esteem that you could imagine than place sharing the podium with Him. No wonder when they asked Mother Teresa, you know, what motivates you to go out into the streets of Calcutta and minister to the poor and to the children? She says, I go to minister to my Lord in His most disturbing disguises. See, when we begin to see the treasure wrapped up in the next person you encounter, an opportunity awakens in your spirit. On this lonely road called Gaza, to meet the chief treasurer, to awaken the treasure that was hidden for ages and generations, but it's now unveiled. And guess what? It's Christ in you. Yes. It's Christ in you. There's no currency that can compare. The fluctuating values of gold and silver, it's ridiculed. When the treasure unfolds, there it is. All flesh is grass, and its loveliness is like a flower that fields. I love flowers. I mean, you can ask very well. I would kneel down and take photos of this. I just love flowers. But the grass withers and the flower fades. Oh my, unfortunately, our translations read, when the breath of the Lord blows upon it. But the Hebrew says, unless. Because we're talking about a different glory here. For the word of the Lord stands forever. And then he says in verse 9, now, get yourself up on a high mountain. That sounds like a good strategy. If you've got something to say, then say it strategically. Find altitude. Where do I find it? In Colossians 3. Since then you are raised together with Christ. Engage your thoughts with throne room realities, where you are seated with Him. You cannot get more elevated than being co-seated together. There's nowhere else to go. You don't want to fall into outer space and just got to hang around there. No. Co-enthroned you are. High mountain. Lift up your voice with strength. What gives volume to your voice? Colossians 3, verse 16. Let the word of Christ richly, let the word of Christ become the wealth of your life. Let it richly dwell you. All knowledge, and speak to one another in songs and hymns and spiritual utterances. Because there's a volume that floods the earth. Yeah. Psalm 19, that same word kabah is used there. A sound that goes, that's a prophecy of the radio and television, because the sound goes, it's like the heat of the sun covers the globe. Same word kabah, those strings in the harps, it is the same word as in an entwined string. If you open a piano, you'll find all those strings, and it's all woven. It's all woven. It's woven. It's all woven. Exactly, interwoven, entwined. And God finds voice. Can you imagine that? You utter that which is precious, you shall be my voice. As 'n mooie dag is hier in die ander hierdie. I think this is, I don't know what it is, I think it's a New American Standard, but listen to this. Jeremiah 15:19. In your returning I will restore you, before me you will stand. If you extract the precious from the worthless, you will be as my mouth. Extract the precious from the worthless. You'll be a strong man. The old goldsmith sits there and he works with that ore until he sees his face reflected in the metal. Can you imagine that? God finding voice in your life. Now even clear. The living epistle, known and read by all. Okay, so we're still in Isaiah 40. Lift up your voice with strength. And he speaks about the amazing creation. And it's just hop over here to verse 18 of Isaiah 40. To whom then will you liken God? You see, this is the quest of religion. It is the quest of philosophy. How do we define God? What likeness will you compare with him? As for the idol, and remember the word idol is the word image. The theme of the book is the image and likeness of God. Revealed and redeemed. But now we carve idols out of our ideas and imagination. He says, as for the idol, the craftsman casts it, we get good at it. A goldsmith plates it with gold, and a silversmith fashions chains of silver, decorate the thing. He who is too impoverished for such an offering selects a tree that does not rot. So if you can't decorate it with gold, if you're just going to do it out of wood, don't use our pine, use Oregon pine, American pine. You can use a harder wood. It lasts longer. So you've got to get some mileage out of your altar. He selects a tree that does not rot. He seeks out for himself a skillful craftsman. So I'm going to create this. I'm passionate about it. It's my religion. So I'm going to build this idol. I'm going to design an image. And in my effort to design this image, I want to somehow connect it to my best idea of who God is. So he finds himself a skillful craftsman to prepare an idol that will not totter. I don't know about, we travel in Africa, we buy these images, and sometimes you've got this beautiful carved image, but you didn't let it opstaan, so you've got to lean it against something, because you put it up and a slight wind will blow it over. And so it's kind of a play of words here, that sometimes because you don't want to build this altar for decoration. This is your idea of God. I'm going to have to worship God. This is now my God. I brought God home. This is God. So I'm going to put a lot of pressure on God. And you don't want a God that falls over when you really have to lean your weight on it. So you build something that won't totter. Build something that will stand the test of time. So at least your next generation, they can say, the God of my grandfather, one day, I was a good financial moeilijkheid. And they prayed and this guy could help him, so bring food and whatever. So here we are, it's a ridiculous, religion is ridiculous. Really. Because we're trying to create an image, and then the next verse spoils all the fun. Verse 21, Isaiah 40. Remember he says, and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. Come on. So he says, do you not know? Remember, in that day you will know, as I am in the Father. You're in me, and I'm in you. Talking image and likeness you. With unveiled faces. And now with unveiled faces, we behold His glory as in a mirror. Suddenly, I discover His image. And listen, here's the clue. Verse 21. Do you not know? Have you not heard? Has it not been declared to you from the beginning? Let's go back to the beginning. Let us make man in our image, in our likeness. Let's not create someone who's so artistic that they'll be able to make their own ideas their gods. Let's get back to the mirror. Oh my. And then in 2 Corinthians 3, Paul says, we're talking two glories here. You see, we read verse 18 of 2 Corinthians 3, and we say, okay, and now with unveiled faces, we behold the glory of the Lord as in the mirror, and we are changed from one degree of glory to another degree of glory to another degree of glory. No, no, no. We are changed. Metamorpho, we'll get to that word. It's a key word. From glory. What glory? The glory of the flesh. That fades. To what glory? To the glory that is unfading. Which is what? Christ in you. We're not talking about, I built this altar out of black ivory. This is the best wood, the hardest wood, and this thing won't ever totter. No, no, no. We're talking about life, image, glory, bearer of God. I love the account that Luke gives us in Acts chapter 17. Paul is having an amazing day. He meets these Greek philosophers, and they've made it their business for hundreds of years to share ideas about their philosophical concepts. And they became skilled and artistic. They would give all kinds of expressions in building shrines. And remember, a shrine doesn't work if you don't build an altar, because that's the currency. You can't, because all of these ideas that we've now invented represent some moody, monstrous gods. And you've got to manage their moods. So you've got to bring them stuff expensive. The more expensive, the better chance you have to get your prayers answered. So we've built our shrines, we've added our altars, and we've used our imagination, and then we've tried out the latest. I mean, this is now the latest, the most fashionable, trendy gods of the moment, and still we don't get our prayers answered. So someone came up with this brilliant idea. Let's build another altar, and we called it To the Unknown God. So we cover all the corners. So at least, we know that we've got the situation here, and we've tried everything. We've paid the most expensive, sacrifices to get this God sorted and try and win this one's favor. I'm so glad that Jesus didn't come to this planet to manage God's moods. I often tell people, that the witch doctor will not make any money unless he can convince his client that you've got a deceased ancestor. That's why you've got this problem today. And this ancestor happens to be in a very bad mood today. And the badder the mood, the more expensive the goat. We've done that in our whole Christian religion. We've done that. That's, we've had to paint this picture. We used to sing as kids, in the Groot Kerk. We sing, ons het oor je alweer gestreven. And so we're pleading for genade, we're pleading for grace, because we've got to somehow, and we'll bring our sacrifices, somehow, so to influence this God, to try and win God's favor. If we could just do something that will win His favor. And the gospel is the announcement. The angels announce. Die welbehaag van God. Good news of great joy. The gooder the news, the greater the joy. I mean, you've watched the FIFA, some of the games. I mean, you don't have to fake the joy when your team scores. Just go, bananas. I mean, it's totally authentic. Joy is authentic. It's not fake. So when James writes about it in James chapter 1, he says, count it all joy when you meet various what? Contradictions. Where are you going to get that joy from? From something you know. It says because you know that the testing of faith produces steadfastness. This steadfastness having full effect so that you may be perfect and complete and lacking in nothing. What does the contradiction try and convince you of? How imperfect you are, how incomplete you are, how in lack you are. So the word counted in the Greek is the word hegeomai. It's page over. Hegeomai is the strengthened form of the word agua. Agua means to lead, as a shepherd leads his sheep. Hegeomai is the strengthened form of agua. And hegeomai means to be officially appointed in a position of authority. It's like in our army when a soldier gets rank. I mean, yesterday was nog a troop. He was just, and suddenly he gets decorated. And it's not so much under the table story, coming to the officers. No, this is a very public occasion. It's a huge parade, and the man or the people are decorated with rank. And suddenly the rank redefines their position in the army. So James says, give joy the official authority in your life. So that when you encounter various contradictions, joy opens the door. There's an authority in joy. It's the voice of faith. It's not me trying to wind up some... No, it's the authority of knowing that I carry something more precious than gold. Whatever the situation is, doesn't have what it takes to defeat the image and the likeness of God in me. So let's go back to Acts 17. So Paul's preaching. He finds, as he strolls around, he does the tourist thing, he sees all these altars, and he comes to the conclusion that these people are really sincere. But you know that you can be sincerely wrong. They've been extremely sincere for generations. And Paul read up a bit of their philosophy. And he begins to talk to them. He says, I have noticed this particular altar that you built to the unknown God. He says, him whom you worship in ignorance, I want to introduce to you. And you know what else he says? He says, this God is not far from each one of us. Does that sound like a foreign gospel? It does in some circles. I mean, Paul should have said, okay guys, sorry man, you've completely missed it. You've missed the plot there. You are very, very far away from God right now. I will have to gently lead you back, and I'll just try to, because here Paul says, because Paul's understanding of the cross is so relevant. He realizes that one has died for how many people? For all. He says, therefore, how many died? We're not talking our beliefs now, we're talking what God believes. So what does God believe here? God believes that that death was enough, once and for all. He never needs to repeat his death. Because in one moment, Jesus Christ died humanity's death. He faced humanity's judgment. He didn't face an angry father. He faced an angry mob of religious fanatics. Died our death. Therefore, says Paul, from now on, to Corinthians 5:16, I no longer know men. anyone according to the flesh. So now he invites us, all these Greek philosophers. He says, the God whom you worship in ignorance, I want to introduce to you. He is not far from each one of us. Oh, well, maybe not to you, but he's a bit closer to this one. No. God is equally Emmanuel to every individual on planet Earth. The fact that we're ignorant about it doesn't make God distant. You might not have a decoder at home, but it doesn't mean that you're beyond reach. You turn the decoder on, shoot, Alchemy Canal opens. And then Paul quotes their own philosophers. And he quotes Epimenides, 600 BC, and he says, in him we live and move and have our being.
Amen.
In that day you will know that as I am in the Father, so you are in me and I am in you. So here Paul quotes a Greek philosopher, not some current Christian theology. He says, this man saw something and he wrote a song, and this is a line of his song that they're familiar with. In him we live and move and have our being. And then he quotes another one, Aratus, 300 years BC. Aratus wrote a song. And he takes just one sentence out of the song. He says, we are indeed his offspring. And now Paul says, punchline. He says, if we are the offspring of God, how dare we take our imagination on tour and we carve ideas out of stone and wood and decorate it with gold, and altars that we build to try and engage with this idea of our religion. He says God has overlooked the times of ignorance.
Wow.
And he says, and now God pleads for the entire human race everywhere. Don't read it, it's Acts 17. He says God appeals to all of mankind everywhere. To what? Unfortunately, we've borrowed the name, a word from the Latin Vulgate translation. And we've left it in our King James Bibles and all the other Bibles, and we call it repentance. Repentance. It's almost like a mobile contract. You pay every month. Penance, put it to them. That makes good money. Because if I can have a client that's going to pay every month, because the more I get into penance, and repentance, then we've got a going concern. This business can have a future. It's sustainable. The Greek word that we've translated, repentance, is the word metanoos. Meta, it's like in Afrikaans met, together with, in German meet, together with, that's with. And noia from the word nous, consciousness, mind, thought.
Wow.
It's a complete different word to repentance. And you read in the introduction to the mirror, I've gone back on Google, you've done Google it now, years back, they contended this. They said, this switch doesn't belong, it shouldn't be there. But it makes good money, it pays for the shrines that they're building and for the stuff, because you keep people feeling a little bit guilty, and then you squeeze out guilt money and duty-driven stuff. And metanoia is a complete different thought. It's an awakening. It's an awakening. Awaken to his nearness. It's the grandest awakening. When I awake, I'm still with you. I'm satisfied beholding your form. Your form. And this brings us back to 2 Corinthians 3. When we speak about the two glories, he says, but now, with unveiled faces. You see, the veil was taken away. in the Incarnation. We're not looking at a figment of our imagination. We're beholding the glory of the Lord. And it's almost embarrassing to realize that I carry the glory. The mystery that was hidden for ages and generations is Christ not hiding somewhere in history or some future date or in outer space. Christ in me, the hope of glory, the completeness of every expectation. He is the desire of the nations. And Paul says, beholding him this way. This is 2 Corinthians 3:18. He says, gazing at this glory unveiled as in a mirror. That's key. Because we've done so much window shopping in a display window. But as in a mirror, what happens? Meta. You recognize the word from repentance? The same voorzitsel, meta. Not metanus. Metameros. Meros is the root word of the word morphe. You know the metamorphosis? The metamorphosis. This is where the idea comes from. It's together with form. We have forgotten what manner of people we are. So we've built our idols, our ideas. And we've made our ideas what we strive to get. You see the difference between the Old Testament and the New Testament is in the Old Testament the language is strive, do in order to become. In the New Testament is be because of what was done. Wow. So the metamorphe is really the opposite of the word that we translated sin, which is hamartia. Ha? Like in Hades, it's again a negative particle. Without meros, morphe, form. The lost identity. Believing a lie about me. And now behold, the ugly duckling did not need a few sessions of facelifts. Right now, this is going to be expensive and it's going to take a while. I've got a chapter in the book, one of my books, says the metanoia moment. Metanoia. Paul says, from now on therefore, I no longer know anyone according to the flesh. There's a moment of awakening. From the day you heard and understood the gospel, said Paul to the Colossians, verse 6, Colossians says, you bore fruit. I don't ever need to live another lie, another day, and to believe a lie about the ugly duckling. Discover this one. This is who I am. Jesus, you continue my word. What does that mean? That means you just follow the story and say, you are what the prophets pointed to. You're the Messiah. You're the image bearer of God. He makes the invisible God visible, as in a mirror. And what happens? Metamorphe happens. Now you cannot grow in completeness, but you certainly grow in the awareness of your completeness.
That's very good.
A baby's not born teenager, but in the nurturing of this beautiful expression of life, I discover the full stature of Christ, the full stature of His I amness, clothed in me. Simon, let me introduce you to Mr. Rock. So in this metamorphosis, the glory of the Lord is made very, very visible in very real, practical, daily life. Is it possible for the beautiful swan to go back to the ugly duckling minds? From time to time. But I'm so glad that we are called to remember. James chapter 1. Okay. ek is nou op 'n ander missie daar, man. While I'm just mentioning, I don't want to keep the people miskillen. Remember James 1 where he said that, so that you may be perfect and complete and lacking in nothing. Right, so now we're facing various contradictions. But he who looks deeply into the law of perfect liberty. Do you see there's a place of looking deeply? He says because one of two things can happen. You can hear the word, be in the same audience, hear exactly the same message, and it strikes home. You feel, oh, talking about me, this is who I am. But then, what does this do? Who is not the doer of the word? Remember the word there is not the law. We were brought forth by the word of truth. Our Genesis word, our revealing, our identity word is what we're talking about. But now I'm facing contradictions, and where do I go? The first thing that I do by not doing the word is to go away from its effect. Where do I go to? Back to the old idea. I go back to the ugly duckling mindset. And I start re-engaging the old familiar territory. And you know, there's lots of confirmations that agree with that. So I think, oh, well, that's just me. That's just me. Sorry, I'm just not that saintly yet, or this, whatever. So I'm just going back, and there I go for another lap of 40 old men, or 40 years of the same old wilderness. But it engages deeply. Tarakuktu, parameno. Seamless. The attraction. The metamorphe naturally happens. Naturally. You don't have to squeeze the flower out of the branch. The flower just happens. It's an unfolding of beauty. That just happens. Don't let anyone put some kind of discipleship pressure on you. You've got to now upgrade to this. And just allow the environment of a koinonia. Philemon 6 sets the pace. It says that the fellowship, the koinonia of our faith ignites the energy. Ignites the energy. Amen. By acknowledging, how does it look? By acknowledging every good thing that is in us. How do we know it's there? It's in Christ. If it's in Him, it's in me. Mirrored in Him. So we mirrored in Him. It's so beautiful. Then He wants me to quickly finish with Acts 17. But we've got them tomorrow as well. We've got tomorrow. Where are we now? Oh yeah, it's still early days. Now we'll keep you awake. If you can keep me awake, I'll keep you awake. Hallelujah. Acts 17. Here we go. I'll just read it to you. So, to the unknown God, therefore, what you worship in ignorance, I proclaim to you. The God who made the world. And so Paul's not trying to introduce some kind of Mickey Mouse idea of God, you know, that's competing with my best sculpture. He says, I'm going to introduce the Creator to you, just to remind you. He says, the God who made the world and the things in it, since He is Lord of heaven and earth, does not dwell in temples made by hand. Where did Paul hear this? While he was holding the clothes of young Stephen, and they were stoning him, killing him. He heard the entire message, and this was the highlight of Stephen's message. He doesn't build in stuff that we build. He doesn't live in buildings made by hand. What an insult to the religious idea. Oh, but Solomon built us this temple. He said, destroy this temple. Now they crucified him and they said, he said he will destroy. No, he didn't say that. He says, you destroy the temple and in 3 days I will raise it up. He says, listen, guys, I don't want to be a wet blanket here, but the God who is the creator of the universe, not the creator of my imagination, not my God that I create, the real God. He doesn't, you can't fit Him in there. You know that the heavens cannot contain God? You guys see the moon last night? Spectacle. Oof. But I mean, just our Milky Way, our space that we witness, you know, with our telescopes and even Google Hubble's photographs. It's mind-boggling, the distances, the measures of the galaxies of outer space. And then God says, heavens cannot measure me. Do you know what Paul says, Colossians 2:9? The fullness of the Godhead bodily tabernacles, dwells bodily. You know, Jesus didn't draw the short straw to, said, all right, God, I'll go and become man for a short while, He holds his breath and he squeezes into this little space. I mean, he's the God of creation, and he squeezes into this little space called human life. And he knows it's just temporal, so just hold his breath and try and endure it. Human form is God's favorite form.
That's great.
Use tabernacle. Use tabernacle. All flesh shall see it together. Oh, but the glory of my flesh was so fading, it was so temporal. Until you see the glory that doesn't fade. Wow. Without spot or wrinkle. My Jesus. So Paul continues, he says, so guys, he doesn't dwell in temples made with hands, nor is he served. Dit vat godsdienst uit die equation. He's not served by human hands, as though he needed anything, since he himself gives to all people life and breath and all things, and made from one every nation of mankind to live and face the earth, and determined their appointed times and boundaries of their habitation. They seek God, if perhaps they might feel after him. Salo is the Greek word, to touch. And then he says, as even your own poets wrote, we live a moon and our being, for we are indeed his offspring. And then he makes this statement, verse 29. He says, being then the offspring of God, if our life has its genesis in our God-begottenness and not our mother's womb, he says, then we ought not to think, he's very polite here, he says, we ought not to think that divine life is like gold or silver or stone, or an image formed by the art and imagination of man. He says, but God has overlooked the times of ignorance, and now he's declaring to all of mankind everywhere to metanos, to awaken in their thinking. And now he brings in his Jewish connection. He says, because God, this is now verse 31 of Acts 17, because God appointed a man and a day. The same God who created the heavens and the earth. He appointed a man and a day. And in that man, on that day, God would judge the world in righteousness. God will judge the world innocent, righteous. How are you going to do that, God? There's the gospel. He says, and of this, God has given proof, assurance, by doing what? Of this what? Of this righteous judgment. God has given proof by doing what? Raising Jesus from the dead.
Wow.
One more verse, then we can go and relax, rest somewhere. Look at this. Romans chapter 4, verse 25. Oh, might as well grab it. Romans 4, 25. Yeah, verse 25. Here is the equation. He, Jesus, was handed over because of humanity's fallen mindset. He was raised because we were declared righteous. His resurrection is the official receipt to our acquittal. I wrote here in brackets, his cross equals our sins. His resurrection equals our innocence. You see, his death brought closure to our old fallen mindset. Now the word I want to mention here is that we've had the idea in our translations that he was handed over because of our transgressions. We can agree with that. And then most of our translations give the idea that he was raised so that we can be justified. But the Greek uses the little word dia. And dia means because of. And repeats that word. Makes two sentences, two statements. He was handed over why? Dia, because of our transgressions. He was raised, why? Because of our righteousness. Can you see it? Jesus could not be raised from the dead if we were still unrighteous.
Yeah.
One has died for all. Therefore all have died. God was in Christ when He did what? When He reconciled the world to Himself. God is not in the process of hoping to reconcile a portion of the planet to Himself. Remember, He went after the one lost sheep until He found it. There is not a square inch on this planet that does not belong to God. A thief never becomes an owner. Psalm 24 verse 1 still says, the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, the world and those who dwell in it. You are God's real estate.
Wow.
What a beautiful gospel. And now God appeals to all of mankind everywhere. Awaken in your understanding. See His image. Image bearer you are. Image bearer you are. With unveiled faces. Alright, we've got the guitar. I'll sing one little song to you and then you can... Ek gaan sommer so 'n sangie speel, don't worry about it. Discover yourself in the mirror of the Word. Discover yourself in the mirror of the Word. For He has set you free. He has set you free. And whom the Son sets free is free indeed. Whom the Son sets free is free indeed. The Son sets free is free indeed, and His Spirit cries in me, and His Spirit cries in me. Abba Father, I'm yours eternally. Abba Father, I'm yours eternally. And His Spirit cries in me. Abba Father, I'm yours eternally. Discover yourself in the mirror of the Word. Discover yourself in the mirror of the Word. Discover yourself in the mirror of the Word. For He has set you free. For He has set you free. Yes, He has set you free. Whom the Son sets free, whom the Son sets free is free indeed. Whom the Son sets free is free indeed. And His Spirit cries in me. His Spirit cries in me. Abba Father, I'm yours eternally. I see everyone in the light of His Word. I see everyone in the light of His Word. For one has died for all. One has died for all. Yes, one has died. I see everyone in the light of His Word. I see everyone in the light of His Word. See everyone in the light of His Word. For one has died for all. One has died. Now all of mankind is revealed in His love. All of mankind is revealed in His love. Yes, all of mankind is revealed in His love. One has died for all. One has died for all. One has died for all. All of mankind is revealed in His love. You see it? All of mankind is revealed in His love. One has died for all. One has died for all. One. Let's all stand together. No. The last verse? Now let's make this declaration, because in the light of this gospel, sin shall have no dominion over me. For when he rose, I was made alive. There's it. Sin shall have no dominion over me. Sin shall have no dominion over me. When he rose, I was made alive. When he rose, I was made alive. When he rose, I was made alive. Sin shall have no dominion over me. Sin shall have no dominion over me. When he rose, I was made alive. When he rose, I was made alive. When he rose, I was made alive. And sickness shall have no dominion over me. Sickness shall have no dominion over me. Sickness shall have no dominion over me. When he rose, I was made alive. When he rose, I was made alive. And fear shall have no dominion over me. Fear shall have no dominion over me. Fear shall have no dominion over me. When he rose, I was made alive. When he rose, I was made alive. Discover yourself in the mirror of the world. Hey? Well, okay.